This is John Paul Ryan. I'm coming from Tokyo, Japan. Some people call me... Gonna give a quick shout out to Selena Dominguez. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, apologize if I'm not. I've seen her here. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate it. Today, talking about a silly, stupid, cringy little article from the Mary Sue. And this one's bad. This one got me triggered. Alright? I'll admit it. This really is an irritating article. And I'm so happy I'm reading it from afar, in Japan, in the safe land of non-social justice warriors. Here we go. Try not to cringe challenge for this one. It's gonna get ugly. The only reason to remake The Princess Bride would be to gender swap and diversify it. And that's exactly the goddamn freaking reason not to make the thing. You see all the backlash that the remake rumors are getting? That's because people don't want you to change the gender, the character races, things like that. It's good just as it is. And by the way, Andre the Giant is deceased. There's no reason to replace him. Let his legend rest. So I started reading this article, see what it was about, and, you know, I was trying to hear her out a little bit, and, you know, she doesn't make, like, the worst points in the world from a theoretical point of view, but from a practical point of view, there's just no way it could work unless it stays the way the movie is. So, this girl here, Kayla Hale Stern, says she is a cult fan, but then she says, as far as I can see, there's no call whatsoever for a Princess Bride do-over unless the studio intends to radically change up the character's dynamic and hugely diversify the cast. If you were such a cult fan, why do you want to change it so bad? If you really think it needs to be diversified, gender swaps, racial swaps, why do you like it in the first place? Wouldn't you just not like it? And then she goes on to say something quite a bit worse than that, which almost made me use the C word, which I would love to use, except there are people watching who kind of like own the social media and stuff. So if it weren't for that, if we did truly have the speech to, you know, let it all out, I would use a C word on the C word. Here we go. Any Princess Bride that tries to simply recast the original and reshoot it on a larger scale is doomed to failure. Well, it wouldn't be doomed to failure for any other reason than it just wouldn't feel like the original. They just can't capture the magic, which is the problem with Star Wars. They just can't capture that original magic. The prequels couldn't capture that original magic. That was the problem. Episode 3, to a limited extent, did capture that magic, but it wasn't quite the same. We don't need flashy special effects. I don't need to see a rodent of unusual size played by Andy Serkis in a motion capture suit. Part of the charm of The Princess Bride is simplicity, silliness, and earnest camp with which it is shot and staged. Then she goes on here to say they'd probably resource to computer graphics, which we agree, okay, nobody wants that. She does also say that it was lightning in a bottle, it probably can't be reproduced, and that there can never be another Andre Giant, which I did say, but here is when she really loses me. The only Princess Bride remake I'd accept is if the intent is to dramatically alter its current form. First of all, here it is, the original movie is painfully, blindingly white. This would need to be the first element upgraded for the 21st century. There's no reason why any character in a new Princess Bride couldn't be a person of color, and a fantastically diverse cast would be excellent to see, especially for the heroic Wesley. I'm already picturing John Boyega, and you can't stop me. So, if that's not a racist comment, I don't know what is. So we have all these people from media sources kissing the ass of the establishment in their own way by saying less white people in movies, then the question is this. By crying about a cast of the past being white, what problems are you solving for us going into the future of trying to have a diverse future where everyone gets along? What are you doing but showing that you actually have some racism deep down inside that might have been rooted there for a long time? It's doing absolutely nothing by crying about white people that are in Hollywood and in movies. This leads me to something else, okay? Now, basically, when Hollywood first started, I don't know, it was maybe 30s, 40s, something like that, America was predominantly white. I don't know the exact figures, but it was about 72% in 2010. So imagine 1930 and 40, I'm going to imagine it was somewhere in the high 80s, 90% white. Now, China or Jamaica is predominantly black and Asian. So people in movies in China and Jamaica in the movie industry are pretty much all black and all Chinese, and Japan for that matter, and any country that's predominantly one color. So what happened was America started out as 80, probably 90 percentile white. So that means probably a lot of the people in the movies, just like China today, Japan today, monocultures today, are of that color. And as time went on, gradually people of color started to be more and more involved in movies. Okay? I can't talk about gender. I'm talking about color specifically right now because gender is a whole different ballgame. So, But as far as racial issues, that's just probability and mathematics. That a larger percentile of a country is going to have a larger percentile of that race in movies. That just makes perfect sense. Now what's going on now is that America is becoming truly more diverse with population. So movies are becoming more diverse and they will continue to become more diverse as far as race and color. It's just a natural occurrence. If you could imagine Japan now is 98.9, 99% Japanese. What if a decade goes by and the population becomes 20% Indian and 20% white and black? Well, probably what would happen is those Indians, white and blacks, who are there now as the 1%, would be in movies and commercials and things like that more. It would naturally happen. But America is probably the most diverse and newest diverse country in the world, so it's getting a little sloppy right now, and people kind of want to force that change to happen faster. But just like any other industry in the world, if a country has a predominantly one race, one color, that's usually what gets filled up in the industry. That's just how it goes. That's just simple logic to me. India's another great example. They have Bollywood, okay? It's pretty much the Indian version of Hollywood. And I haven't seen a ton of these movies, but when you see the trailers, they're pretty much all Indians in the movie. Because they're racist, because they're excluding other people who live in India. There are definitely white people and Asian people and black people who live in India. It's not like they're saying, hey, we don't want you in Bollywood because you suck. They're saying, well, it's because 95% of India is Indian, so that's probably who's going to be in the movie industry. And if that population starts to shift, let's say 40 years from now, then probably you'll see a natural shift there too. They'll start being more white, black, and whoever else is in India in Indian movies. But for now, India is predominantly Indian, so that's who you see in the movies. But America, for some reason, has to be special, where people can't look at numbers and percentages. They have to look at who's doing what, who has done what in the past, and this kind of thing. So, if you take my drift, the past of America is kind of like India or China or Japan is now with the movie industry. I'm sure Jamaica, who is predominantly black, or Africa doesn't have a huge movie industry, but the one they do have, I'm sure, is mostly blacks. Sorry. Total logic to me. So when you say something like painstakingly white, makes you look like an idiot because you don't exactly understand what's going on or why white people were in movies at the time. Every principal character, Wesley Buttercup, Prince Humperdinck, kind of funny name, Inigo Montana, Vizzy, Feznik, Count Rugen, can't read those all right, apologies. Every single one of them could benefit from a diversity of casting. The only characters that need to go unchanged are Miracle Max and his wife Valerie, because any studio that did not bring back living legends Billy Crystal and Carol Kane to those roles does not deserve to be making movies. Just like I don't deserve to be writing articles, because I have to say painstakingly white. And why use the word painstakingly? Why is that painstaking to you? So you can't look at white people in a movie and see an all-white cast without saying painstakingly? So you're basically saying you're cringing at a movie full of white people. That's where I say I would love to use the C wording you, but I just won't do that because, no need to risk my monetization and all that on you. And then, of course, she has a problem with the princess being a princess who gets saved by a man. You know, there's no more damsel in distress. Yeah, there are a lot of strong women, but what about the ones who are just feminine and don't fight and don't like to fight? How about those women? There's plenty of them, and I'm going to say that's probably the majority. Most women don't like to fight and kick ass and grab lightsabers and machine guns and blow freaking everyone away. A lot of women don't like to break a nail. They like to go to, get tans. They like to get massages. And they like to be women, basically. So not only is there a problem with being men these days, there's also a problem with being women. So the simplest fix to shake up the entire Princess Bride dynamic is to make Wesley a woman and Buttercup a man. Why the F-U-C-K do you need to mix up and play all these games with gender roles and races? And now you're making a totally different movie. And this is exactly why people don't want it remade, because of schmucks like you who would mess it up. Don't get me wrong, one part of me enjoys that this is what I do, this is what I enjoy doing, but it's so hard to read, which is one reason why it's definitely one of the more interesting media sources out there, because it's just completely screwy. Now remember, this is the same person who said she was a cult fan. If the idea of gender swapping the supporting characters of Inigo, Vizzy, Fesni, and Rugen feels upsetting, consider how it feels to watch this movie in formative years and see no women at all except Buttercup languishing in her gilded cage. Women can be scheming Sicilians and villainous royals also, but essentially what I need is the woman in black sword-fighting Lady Indigo Montana, and that is exactly what people don't want to see. That's exactly why people don't want to remake, you idiot. That's exactly why Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't want to remake, you idiot. This guy says there's a shortage of perfect movies in the world. It would be a pity to damage this one. I agree. So this article she wrote is exactly what people don't want to see happen in the movie, and she writes the article. That's what the Mary Sue's about. It's about writing exactly what would flop at the box office, what people don't want to see. Anyway, I'm doing shout-outs, special thanks, things like that. If you haven't, click that subscribe button, press it, smash it, whatever you want to do to get subscribed, and I will see you next time.